This is your number 2. Okay. Remember, you have to pull out your information. There are 452 tickets. So right, you had 452 tickets. Okay, they were sold for a high school basketball game. There were 2 prices of tickets. So one price was a student at 75 cents, and the other price is a non-student at $2. Here's what they're asking. How many of each type were sold? And they're giving you another statement. The proceeds from selling those 2 came to $4.29. How do I get proceeds? How do I even determine what gives me the proceeds for this? You add them together, but first you have to do what? You have to multiply how many students times what they cost, how many non-students times what they cost. Say I went and say my student tickets, let's make it easy, are $1 each, and my non-student tickets are $2 each. Say I sold 20 student tickets and 10 non-student tickets. How do you figure out how much money you made? First you multiply 20 times 1 and 10 times 2, and then what do you do with it? Add. And doesn't this become what you make? That's the proceeds line. Think of this logically. Think of it in easier terms. So your proceeds, we got 2 variables. We've got a student ticket pricing and a non-student. We said we would use X and Y's, this way everybody's on the same page with X and Y, and then the letters don't get confusing. Now, these are how many student tickets I'm going to sell at 75 cents, how many non-student tickets I'm going to sell at $2. You guys know when you do fundraisers, how many box donuts you need to sell in order to make X amount of proceeds, right? If your box of donuts are, say, $5, say you make $5, you need to sell $50 for it. You can figure out you needed 10 boxes. It's the same type of principle. How many you have times what it's worth. So, this is one statement right here. You have 2 types of tickets, and they add up to 452. All together, you sold 452 tickets. Now, your proceeds come from 75 cents times your X. There's my X times my 75 cents now. There's my Y times my $2. Plus your $2, and you don't need your decimal point, but I stuck it in there. This is going to equal what I make at the door there. At the door, I make $429 because I'm going to sell a certain amount of student tickets for 75 cents and a certain amount of non-student tickets for $2. When I add up all my money, I make $429. This is math, algebra 1. 2 variables. Now, you didn't have to go through and do this whole thing. We just had to create a matrix. So 1, 1, 452, 0.75 to 429. What's the order of this matrix? 2 by 3. So you're going to plug this into your matrix. You're going to bypass. This is the worst part, down here. You're going to bypass this, and then you're going to come out with the answer. So you're going to determine that you should sell 380 student tickets at 75 cents and 72 non-student tickets at $2. A good check is add this up and make sure it equals to 452 and check otherwise. If I take 380 times 75 plus 72 times 2, that should give me my $429. Yes? Now, I kind of said yesterday, you're just doing simple interest. Your simple interest says, how much did you earn? You invested $200 at 10%. 200 times 0.10 you earn $20. So simple interest says principal times rate equals interest. Frank has $38,000 he wants to invest. Part at 7.5% and the rest at 6%. So he's investing his money into how many different places? 2. So right away, we get an X and a Y. He's investing part, an amount, at 7.5%. He's investing another amount, the rest, at 6%. Right, now, remember when we did this with one variable? You could do X and 38,000 minus X. Remember doing that? If we used one variable, we're using 2 because we're able to come up with more than one statement. But you could do X and 38,000 minus X, because doesn't we put the remainder in the other account? But we're going to use 2 variables. Here's your let statements. So let's see what they give us. First of all, we know that these 2 pieces that he invested have to total to what? $38,000. So therefore, there's my first statement. Or, watch what happens. If I solved for y, there's my 38,000 minus x. If one is x, the other one's 38,000 minus x. Now, I need my next statement. Here's the hard one. If his annual interest income, all these interests total up to this, 2,600. How much has he invested? All the interest. So all the principal times rates. So I take his X amount at 7.5%. I'm just putting it out like this right now. I take his Y amount at 6%. This is my principal times rate. It's going to give me interest. I'm going to add all my interest up to 2,600. Yes.
Do you divide by 0.075?
Well, don't divide yet. Don't divide yet. We're going to turn these into decimals in a second. They're percentages, so you can't work with the percentage. Right now, I just put it in with the percent.
No, was that 0.015 or 0.06?
This one, 0.15. Yeah, you didn't have to do any of this. You didn't have to do this part. You only had to do this and put it in your matrix. Yeah, I'll give you that in a second. Now, because we can't do percents, we take our percents, turn them to decimal. We move our decimal place 2 places to the left. So this becomes x times this plus y times this equals 2,600. Principal times rate, principal times rate. If it's easier, you always put the x after the coefficient. So here's your 2 statements, this one and the one where we know how much he invested in total. These are my only 2 statements that I need. I have 2 variables, I need 2 equations. Agree? Now, I don't have to do that whole thing. All I have to do is put this in my matrix. Because the hardest part was coming up with your let statements. And when you go back over this, make sure you bring those answers back to your x and your y. Questions on this? So now, this one was a little bit different. I had 5 pounds of all kinds of nuts in my hand. As I go to pay for this, they're going to charge me $2.80 a pound. These are my mixed bag of nuts. And when I put them on the register at $2.80 a pound, she's going to tell me how much my 5-pound bag costs. Okay? So now, this mixture, this bag of mixed nuts that I have, contains peanuts and cashews. So how many variables do I have in here? 2. One's peanuts, one's cashews. Now, let's let x equal the peanuts. and let y equal the cashews. Okay? How much a pound are my peanuts? $1.70. How much a pound are the cashews? And we know cashews are worth a lot more, right? $4.45 a pound. Now, together, how many pounds of nuts do I have? 5. So therefore, x plus y equals 5. That's my first statement. My second statement is, I need to find out how much there are. I know if I mix this all up, it's going to be 5 pounds. And she's going to charge me $2.80 a pound. So $2.80 times 5 gives me $14. I'm going to pay $14 for this mixture of nuts. So therefore, I'm going to take my X amount at, because what if my peanuts cost me $1 and my cashews cost me $2? I would multiply by however many peanuts by $1, my cashews by $2, and wouldn't that add them together? So I got to do the same thing. So I got to take my X times what? How much are they worth a pound? 170 plus my Y, how much are they worth a pound? Together, I'm going to pay $14. So now I want to switch this so my variable comes last and my coefficient comes first. Whoops. It's just a matter. You can leave it like that because you're just pulling out your coefficients, but it probably looks better this way. So here's my two statements, this one and this one. So you're going to put this into your matrix. Again, you have a 2 by 3. 1, 1, 5, 1.7, 4.45, 14. So you don't need your 2 decimals, but if you want them, you can. Okay, and you're going to figure out how many pounds of each one you're going to put in there. Let's set this up. A scholarship fund earns income from 3 investments at a simple interest of 5, 6, and 10%. Now, remember, even though you might say, I want to put all my money at the 10%, that's where there might be more of a risk. So that's why there's different levels. So you have 3 variables. Let's put it here. Let X equal one amount at 5%. Y equals an amount at 6%. And Z equals my amount at 10%. So you have 3 variables. How many equations do we have to come up with? 3. So far they haven't told us anything. But the annual income available for scholarships from the investments is $1,000. That means the interest from 1 plus the interest from 2 plus the interest from 3 is $1,000. All your interest added up. So interest is principal times rate. So we're going to substitute this. 0.05 times X plus 0.06 times Y plus 0.10, times Z equals $1,000. That's our first equation. Our interest that we get out of this totals $1,000. If the amount at 5, what variable did I use for 5? X is 5 times 6. What's 6? Y. So how do I say 5 times Y? 5Y. There's another equation. Okay. And the total amount invested at 5 and 6, so 5 is X and 6 is Y, is equal to the amount invested at 10. What amount is invested at 10? Z. X. x plus y equals z. Okay, do we have three equations? Yeah. Now, let's get everything in x, y, z constant order. First one, good. Second one, what do I have to do? Subtract 5y. The z is going to be 0. And what's my constant? 0. I need this one. How about this guy? Subtract z. I need this one. So now pull out your coefficients and put it into your matrix. Pull the words out, guys. Pull the words out from this. Okay, hang on, don't leave. Okay, the last one, at a local convenience store, the total cost of getting a small, a medium, and a large drink. Now you have three variables: small, medium, large. The total cost that you're going to pay when you walk up there is $2.34. Each one of your drinks has a different cost. The cost we don't know in this case. So X is the cost of a small, Y is the cost of a medium, Z is the cost of a large. The cost of the large, which we call Z, is 1.75 times the cost of a small, X. There's one statement. The difference in cost between a medium, X, and a medium Y, and a small X, there's your Y minus X, is 20 cents. And doesn't that make sense? The difference between a small and a medium, like 60 cents versus 80 cents. So now you've got that one. Determine the cost for each. Now we've got two already. Y is equal to 1.75x, and Y minus X is equal to 20 cents. We need the third, which is right up here. So you're going to say the cost, because you only bought one of each, so it's 1 times X, 1 times Y, X plus Y plus Z equals 234. Okay, set these up so that you get X, Y, and Z, so it matches this one. So pull the Y to the other side. Plus 0 equals 0. And set this one up, you're going to have to reverse these. Negative X plus Y, there's your 0, equals 20. And put it in your matrix. And you will find out your cost for each one. Pull out your coefficients and put it in your matrix.